Hello. I was going to address this thing that I usually talk about, that I sometimes mention, and a lot of people have difficulties understanding and comprehending, how could that be possible? When I state that our reality is not as solid as most people perceive it to be, that it's actually very fluid, even further that it's digital, of a digital nature, not of this dense, stagnant, physical materiality, or material reality. What material actually is, material doesn't exist. Everything you see is a figment of imagination. It's a power of consciousness, imagining things to be real. And then people give me these challenges like, okay, like, I don't know. Let's say one time this guy was like in a debates and like, all right, you have that bicycle there and you ride a bike. So, okay, let's say you crash into a fence and crash and fall, whatever, and you break your leg, or any other way injure my body. So how come that's real? How come that can happen if the reality is just an illusion, right? Or like a type of simulation. So we have to kind of like start understanding these things a little bit deeper, and not be so shallow with our understanding. Oh, you can break your leg, and you can cut yourself. So, but your reality is not real. Oh, that's so stupid. It's exactly because of that we. I mean, I can say we in a way. That's why when people look at these things, that's why they don't understand it. That's why they have no idea what I'm talking about, or what people like me are talking about, and they simply conclude that we are deluded and that we are just like, I don't know, nuts, or just, I don't know, stupid, crazy, I don't know, on drugs or some stuff like that. I've also heard before in my life many times about the things I say and claim. It's you have to think of these things in a completely different way. First of all, what is reality? You don't know. Nobody does. Like, actually nobody knows what reality is. Science deals with the phenomena of reality and perception of reality ever since this is a subject, and this subject is a subject ever since man knows for himself. Like, you do have to kind of be outside of that, dogmatic, religious, shallow understanding, because that's a shallow understanding of what reality and what self or consciousness is. And I would say that some of the Eastern philosophies, they're not so much religions, they're more so philosophies. They are closer to the truth itself. However, they, in many ways, I'm not sure if they themselves are too pinkish, fairy tale like, offering these kind of explanations. From what I read, not really. It's more that people come up and they make like a cult, of some sort, and paint these things in a very, rosy way, and very, we're all happy, we're all one, and we're all love, and that's cool. Okay, I get it if you really, really, truly get the point of those ideas, but there's more to it. There's more, I would say, more of a, it's not even mechanical, it's a more complex view into the layers of how these things happen to be what they are, or what they seem what they seem to be. Okay, so when you say reality is solid, it's this, it's that. I can hold a wheel. I can, I don't know, chop my hand. My arm, and it hurts. I can break my bones, and I can feel the crushing of my bone, and I can, hear it even. Why all these things come together perfectly, just the way that only in physical reality can, if they're not real, if they're not solid. Yeah, why these things can happen and why they do happen is because everything that exists, everything material, not material, sorry, everything that exists, that means everything and everybody. Everything has this life force within itself. So you're not an exclusive unit where the consciousness is stored because you're a man or a woman, okay? Because you're a so-called pinnacle of creation. That's some form of delusion, you see? Because this consciousness is in everything and everybody constantly at the same moment. So it is almost like you could imagine that this is almost like a recording device, okay? Some kind of a recording mechanism that records every single moment and then uses that to build upon what it initially started imagining. You see? So our world is not physical from now. This world that you see today keeps evolving, and the ideas of this world are getting more and more complicated, more and more sophisticated, more and more complex. Because with more information recorded, with more data having at its disposal, it can build more. It can build more sophisticated. You could say, I don't know. Subjectively, you could say better. I don't know what's better. Was a caveman a better version of this consciousness, or is the modern man a better version? It's definitely a more sophisticated version than the caveman, definitely. And it's getting into more and more sophistication. Of course, it's sophistication, complications come. More complicated challenges. Some challenges are more surface level challenges. And with sophistication, there come to the, processes come to the point where they become extremely tangled. And the whole reality is tangled, which means that the whole reality now has, more and more pieces and bits and pieces of all sorts of information across the entire board of all sorts of levels of consciousness. Consciousness that is present in a flower, the same time as it is present in you, that it is present in a rock, that is present in right now I'm looking at elements that create a fence, a guardrail by the freeway. You name it. It doesn't matter. There's no separation when it comes to the substance of reality. No separation whatsoever. So anytime, let's say when I crack my neck, right, and I hear it, inside, and it's like, oh, if the reality is so fluid and it's, just an illusion, just a figment of imagination, simulation or whatsoever, then how come, when they can CAT scan and X-ray your bone structure and they can see where things are, and then when you move it, you can even hear it within you. It's like, so that proves that these things are real and they are there. Yes, they are. Yeah, you're right, they are. They're constantly, the idea is being perfected. The idea of itself is being perfected. So yes, everything did start with very simple ideas, very simple, and then based on that, there was some cornerstone upon which ideas started getting more and more complicated, more and more complex. That's what I'm talking about. And it never stops. It keeps going. So hopefully you will start understanding this, how this works. This is like a recording device or mechanism that records every single experience of every living creature, of every living organism that you see, that you experience, that you know of, and the things that you don't know of, that you're not conscious of, because they're not in the scope of your conscious reality or the reality that you are aware of. So that's how that works. It's like as if you have this one self or one consciousness of all spread out in just about everything there is. So simultaneously, it's recording your experience in this moment and an experience of somebody far, far away that you personally, as this person, do not know, have never met before, and you may never will in this reality, in this life. Okay? And that doesn't only go with man and woman. That goes with animals. That goes with plant life. That goes with minerals. Goes, like I said, in everything. So of course, it is perfecting this illusion, this figment of imagination, this simulation. It's perfecting it, of course, because there is nothing else. There is nothing really. There's nothing that is there. And so it has everything, it has time, and it has all the resources for it, because in imagination, anything is possible, and nothing has a boundary. Only the boundaries is set upon yourself, which means only the boundaries that the consciousness sets for itself, in order to make this more of a challenge for itself, to make this a challenge, how to bring, how to imagine something so perfect, to basically deceive itself that it's there, that it is there, and that it's so real that it's dangerous to itself. You see, it's a deception. It's a self-deception. A movie's coming out, which is kind of funny in all these months that I've been talking about. Now the movie's coming out called Free Guy. Ryan Reynolds is in it, and it basically speaks about how the guy finds himself in this world. Not finds himself, but he's alive. Like each one of us here, and we imagine this is a real world. And suddenly he comes upon a realization, or somebody comes and tells him that this is all just background, and that it's all just a game. It's like a computer game, and he's a character in it. And that this computer game is about to go off grid. It's about to be, not off grid, it's about to be offline. So which means it's going to go offline, means it's going to end. So the whole reality starts falling apart. This is what can happen. And this is why the consciousness itself protects this information on itself. Because this would decode itself. You understand that? This would decode this reality. Because once we decode the reality and figure out what this is made of, we come out of the self-delusion, self-deception, and then there's nothing there. Because that's what the reality is. There is nothing there. Nothing is there. That's the only reality. The only thing that's real. Everything else is built upon ideas. It's just ideas projected into so-called space that does not exist, that it's self-created. It may sound complicated to some of you, but truly think about it. How can something that is not material, I will repeat this until I'm blue in my face. How can something that it's not material, that's consciousness, that's your awareness of yourself, it's not material, how can that create something that is solid, like an object, that it even becomes an obstacle for itself? It's impossible. It's a paradox. It can't happen. So it is nothing. Everything is nothing but a dream. And this is not to degrade, the reality, to make you depressed, thinking like, oh, so I'm, living my life all for nothing. No, because you gotta understand, this is all there is. This really is all there is. When you go beyond the curtain of this reality, there is nothing. There is unlimited power. There's unlimited resources. And that's it. So that's called nothing. Because it has no shape. And it's nothing. It's it. So the reason why we have this reality is because we worked so hard, or I worked so hard to make it look real, to make it look real, okay? To make it feel real, not just look. This is much more complicated. This is not. Sometimes people look at the computer games and computers and they say, oh, but that's still so far away from, anything that we have in our world, in our reality. So obviously, we are real and this computer game is just a computer game. Yeah. Now imagine if you had, I don't know, millions of years, okay? Or trillions of years to perfect one thing as an idea. Just think about it, because this is exactly what's happening. Time has no limit here. There's been civilizations in this reality, and there's been realities upon realities built here. Do you know what these kind of, let's say, pyramids in Egypt, and all sorts of, old structures, complicated architecture, do you think this is really from this society, or the one right before it? Are you crazy? These things are nothing but glitches in reality. That these are old realities upon which the new ones were built. And these are just things that stayed behind. These are just things that the previous reality did not completely exclude and erase. So it's just junk. It's junk material. It's basically stuff that helped, just like, I don't know, you have a community where there's like 10 houses that are getting old. So, I don't know, investors come in and they say, forget this. We need to revive this community. This is dying. Everything looks like shit. Boom. Let's throw big money in it. Let's rebuild this whole thing. Now, 3 out of the 10 houses may stand tall, may be pretty, structurally sound. So they decide, you know what? We don't need to completely destroy these buildings. Let's knock them down halfway down. Keep the cornerstone, keep the bases, and build upon that, restore some of the stuff, and that's it. And do like, I don't know, two-thirds of remodeling, And then the 7, flatten them with the ground. Dig stuff up, dig stuff out of the ground, set new parameters, set up new, cornerstone, fix the ground, change the ground, I don't know, lift it up. And some things stay buried in the ground. Some things say, we don't need to take that out. It's okay. Move on. Build upon that. Build upon that. Forget about that. It's old, it's gone, it's done. Build upon it. You see, that's what's happening. Realities kept being layered upon each other. That's what is happening. That's what you're seeing. All these things are remaining pieces of previous realities. That's it. That's all it is. Just like this world, in a near future, if the reality will not be completely wiped out, will serve as platform for something completely different. And those when we will be in that reality, we'll look back and say, man, what was that stuff? Who was here? Because the memory, with that reality being wiped out, it's also going to be wiped out. And very tiny pieces of that memory will stay behind somewhere. Almost, they're going to come up almost like glitches. Because when you don't erase something properly and completely, it will resurface here and there. And that is what's happening with our world. That's why a lot of people are researching things, and they're very, very, excited and very, amused by, things coming up and saying, wow, that was amazing. Because they forgot that they built that reality and they abandoned it, and now they are in a different one that is being built upon that one. And that one is forgotten because it doesn't serve its purpose anymore. It's over. So all these digging and stuff, fine, but it's not going to change anything. It only serves as the keys to the decoding, to stop with the self-deception. But then if there's no self-deception, we go right back into the source and become all. And then there's no me, there's no you, there's no physical experience anymore. You can't try out a new car, you can't build a new house, you can't create a new family, or you can't, multiply, because it won't matter. So when religious books, I would say, prophesy that at some point God will intervene, the Creator, the Godhead, and will take those that deserve the spot in the new, better world out, and then bury the whole world, destroy it with all the wicked ones who were disobedient. We're talking about basically resetting the reality and canceling out everything that doesn't serve the new reality. So if you're part of old reality of, smoking, drinking, abusing, drugs and stuff like that, you're not needed, of course, you're taken out. You're a factor that makes the new reality impossible. So that impossibility has to be removed. That's it, it's so simple. So it's only layering realities, and which with every new one, the one before, gets pushed back, somewhat deleted. Whatever is useful from it, it goes on. Whatever is not is buried in the ground and burned forever, forgotten. But on a molecular level, meaning that God would, what means that God would basically reset the whole world and build it back up again, and then put those that are deserving back into that beautiful earth. Everything would be restored. Everything would go back to how, originally it was designed to be, beautiful, not corrupt. That just means that the reality would suddenly collapse, as if somebody shut the computer down. It's like you go to sleep, and now you wake up in a different world. You don't know. You don't even know what happened. Honestly, you would not know. There is no way of knowing. You would suddenly be born, or you would suddenly be, a different type of consciousness in a completely different sphere or so-called reality. And that's guys, that is what I'm talking about. You have to understand these things deeper. You have to start looking at things a little bit more, on a deeper side, not through cliches, not only through religions, and stop taking things so literal. Even when it comes to Eastern philosophy is philosophical, but it's also in a way very practical. So it all depends how you look at it, and what kind of if you experiment with things, and don't just read things. That's what I mean. Put them to practice. Try things. A lot of things don't work. I already tell you that, because I've been talking about this kind of stuff many years, because they contrast. They contradict each other, and that's why they don't work. Because the way that some people put them into practice is very naive, very foolish, very shallow, okay? And that does not work like that. You have to know much, much more in order to be able to manipulate the reality, because that's what the whole goal is, manipulating reality. And it's not selfish. That's what so-called God does, nothing else. That's the head, the pyramid, the top of consciousness. That's where all the consciousness comes together into one peak, into one focal point. You know, if you can perceive that, then you are that God, and you are manipulating and controlling your entire environment, because it's so fluid. You can change it anytime you want to. But sounds easy. It's not.